storekeeper is this individual that's known as Crump. Now, apparently, he's with the shits, he's a savage, but most notably, he's known for retelling hood stories on Twitter. And not only that, awarding victories. Now, he usually tells or keeps track of who the f is up, who's down, who's tied, who hit a buzzer beater, who hit a game-winning 3. He's keeping up with it. So if you want to know who the f got choked, this is the guy to ask.
Crump had previously been very close with Durk and seemingly ready to crash out for him at any moment, but now he was one of Lil Durk's worst enemies, and with Melly's notorious trigger finger and Crump's infamous Twitter fingers working in tandem, things were about to get very dark for Lil Durk. On the 31st of May 2014, only a few months after Lil Mark's death, Durk would be out in Chicago, driving around with his cousin MacArthur Swindle, who was known as Lil Durk's new rap prodigy, OTF Nunu, or Nooski. They would stop at a strip mall on the 700 block of East 87th Street, and Durk would go to visit one of the stores, while Nooski stayed back and waited in the car.
You can't pay off debt with more debt. Actually, you can. You just got to be strategic about it. I had credit cards charging me over 25% APR. NerdWallet helped me find a personal loan with a fixed rate of 5.99%. I didn't even need a collateral, and I saw all my options in like less than 2 minutes. It's a free form, no hit on your credit score to check, and if you're approved, funds land in your account in just 2 days. Best part is it only takes 2 minutes to see if you qualify. So tap the link and see if you pre-qualify today, and come back and thank me later.
Most Christian men think ministry and business don't mix. But what if your business could be your ministry and your first paying client is guaranteed?
Around 3:20 p.m, while Durk was inside the store, someone would suddenly approach the car, opening fire at Nooski, who would attempt to drive away from the situation. Unfortunately, he'd already been hit numerous times and would crash his car into a nearby storefront window before succumbing to his injuries. Someone at the scene would even capture the moment of Lil Durk seeing his deceased cousin and breaking down, which his ops would later post on social media to mercilessly troll him. Nooski's murder remains officially unsolved, but in online theories, Melly has always been one of the main suspects. Only about an hour and a half after Nooski had been killed, Melly would simply tweet a bunch of laughing emojis with no further context. This will be followed by another tweet of Melly saying that he had heard that somebody was looking for him, and yet another tweet, this time clearly referring to the shooting by posting a bunch of emojis depicting a person running and shooting. The following day, Melly would start making fun of Nooski more directly, laughing at someone commenting on the news story about the incident, and he would also make a tribute post to Fathead and Lil Mark saying how he wished he could see them again, but that he has to continue turning up for them in the streets. Crump, on the other hand, had been going back and forth with Nooski even before his death, with Crump calling Nooski a fake gangster, and not long after Nooski's death, Crump would let his infamous Twitter fingers loose, dissing Nooski for being an internet gangster who had been talking tough online, but now would face the real consequences. But Crump wasn't satisfied with just tweeting, and eventually, he would even post a video of himself at the murder scene, even saying how he was there with the very person who killed Nooski. He doesn't want to be on camera, which many have taken to be an obvious reference to 051 Melly.
Them left Nooski. They left his ass right here. You feel me? They left his ass up here on folks and them tweaking. Buying some shoes. Y'all see real niggas be up here though. Niggas play with me up here on folks in this building when be on the news. I look like Nooski. Hit his ass up right here on Pat. I'm with the that did. He don't want to be on camera though. Hit his ass up right here on Pat. They fuck my boy up. Right here, you feel me? Historic events. Y'all know I'm gonna bring y'all around this shit. Historic events. Wish you would play with me, boy. I look like Nooski. He ran into this though. He ran into the children's place, died like a bitch on Pokes now. Goof. What do I look like, Nooski?
Lil Durk was obviously heartbroken by the loss of his cousin, but this would be only the beginning of 051 Melly's campaign to torment Lil Durk. Later that year, Durk would actually come face to face with Melly, as the two would run into each other during a meet and greet event for the rapper T.I., where Durk was together with his OTF crew, while Melly would arrive with King Louie's Mubu crew. This would lead to a major scuffle between the two crews, requiring the police to break things up.
Check it out. Check it out. Folks. Hey, bro, the police. Check it out. Check it out. Folks. Hey, bro, the police said, come on, bro. I already know to stay back, folks.
I want to give a special apology to my brother, Henry from the shop, man, the shop 147. I apologize for disturbing the peace, OTF as a whole. You my brother, and you know I got your back 100%. Talking about a nigga choking me, man. What the f going on, man? You already know we can fight head up if you want to. We can shoot it out on you goof ass move, man. You talking about Crump? Why the f was you running? Wrong with Louis too, man. Crump and Louis.
Afterwards, Melly would troll about the incident on Twitter, saying that Dirk had panicked after seeing him and had failed to do anything to him before their crews got into it, perhaps subtly implying that Dirk should have at least tried something given what Melly had done to Newski. But unfortunately for Dirk, Melly had zero intentions of keeping the beef only on the internet, and less than a year after Newski's murder, he would allegedly strike again. In the early morning hours of the 27th of March 2015, Lil Durk's manager, OTF Chino, real name Uchina Aguina, was sitting in his car outside a fast food spot on the 8400 block of Stony Island Avenue. After having taken part in a meeting with basketball star Joakim Noah about their anti-violence campaign earlier that evening, then, just like in Newski's murder, an unknown assailant would suddenly walk up to the car, open fire, hitting Chino multiple times. By the time an ambulance would arrive to take him to the hospital, he would end up being pronounced dead on arrival. Afterwards, Mubu Crump would do what he did.
This right here, ESPN Bet, this is the sports book that gives fans the tools they need. Better insight.
Best, shooting another video of him visiting the death site and trolling Lil Durk, asking the cashier at the food store if they had an order for Newski before trolling and demanding a Chino burger.
Hey, y'all got that order for Newski? Chino burger. Chino burger. Yeah, y'all got it. Hey, ready? Oh, thank you. Oh, Bill. What's up? Y'all with that OTLK? Oh, man. Hey, this motherfucker focus as hell, man. Y'all, this shit ain't done, man. Y'all done put this shit back on the grill, man. This shit disgusting, man. Get this shit together, man. For real, this shit bogus as hell.
Only about a week after Chino's murder, one of the founding members of the 600 set, called Lil Boo, real name Jerome Anderson, would also reportedly be gunned down by an assailant getting around in a gold-colored car. A member of 051 called Ario, real name Arius Fitch, would be arrested as a suspect in the case later that very same day, but many have also rumored Melly to have been involved in the case, particularly as Lil Boo's sister would later diss Melly after his death, telling him to say hi to his brother in the afterlife. Following Chino's murder, Lil Durk has been rumored to have placed a $150,000 bounty on Melly's head, which, while unproven, may not be far-fetched given the murder-for-hire charges that Lil Durk is currently locked up for. This would allegedly lead to a young member of the THF-46 set called Raheem, who was only 15 years old at the time, to try and hunt Melly down a few months later in May, actually catching him and other 051 members on the 6000 block of South Wentworth Avenue and opening fire at them, hitting Melly in the head and foot, whilst also hitting others, including Lil Boo's alleged killer Ario. All victims would be taken to hospital with serious injuries, but miraculously, nobody would die in the incident, and afterwards, pictures were posted online showing Melly with crutches and a cast on his leg, while he would also jump on Twitter and let everybody know that he wasn't shaken by the incident one bit, as Melly's brother Wu would also later tell Zach TV.
Hey, I got two brothers and they know it. Arrow, check it out. What's up, what's up? My big brother Arrow, my big brother Melly, y'all know we blood. Zach and all this shit. Shout out to Zach one time. Shout out to JCV, man. All the time. Free roll? It's your money, man. I tell you different on the camera, man. They be lying, man. We doing it. Look, catch me her. What a headshot one shit y'all did, boy. Hey, no, shout out. So, he really straight off that headshot, man. Y'all know it.
But unfortunately for Raheem, shooting the Chirac gravedigger but not killing him meant that he was going to be moving with a huge target on his back from that point onwards, and Melly would make it clear by swearing on Lil Mark's life that he was going to make his enemies suffer. Only a few days later, on the 24th of May, Raheem and another teen were walking in an alley near 45th Street and Cottage Grove Avenue in the Bronzeville neighborhood, when someone would ambush them and shoot both, killing Raheem while injuring his friend. Once again, Melly's friend 051 Ario, who had just last month been arrested in the relation to the murder of Lil Boo, and who had been one of the people injured in the shooting together with Melly, would be arrested for the murder. This time, the arrest would also lead to charges. Police reports would later reveal how Ario's arrest had led to an absurd moment where he would allegedly pleasure himself inside the interrogation room. During the trial, the prosecutor would argue that Ario had murdered Raheem to avenge the earlier shooting that had also injured Melly. But once again, despite persistent rumors that Melly had also participated in the shooting, and numerous times that Melly had seemingly dissed Raheem and even implied that he'd taken part in the murder, Melly himself would never be charged.
Can't smoke, we ain't doing shit. I don't know.
We don't know. I don't know what we ain't smoking nobody.
I got shot 2 weeks, he expired.
I'm gonna read you a bedtime story and tuck you in. Oh yeah. Tell you about this when he walked down this dark alley. He ain't make it to the other end of the alley. I'm just reading the comments, bro. I'm just asking you. I said you said you finna go to sleep. I am. And I said you want me to tell you about this story about this right? He went in through the one end of the alley, but he didn't make it to the other end. It was black alley to take the story. I've heard of it. It's a story. Why you never heard of it? Why you wasn't there? Of course. I've heard of it.
After Raheem's murder, Melly would seemingly lay low for over a year, but in November 2016, he would allegedly strike again. On the 26th of November, a mass shooting would take place inside a party on the 8800 block of South Exchange Avenue, which would end up killing 18-year-old Daquan Barnett, also known as Bankroll Q from Melly's 051 Young Money set, a shooting that also injured 5 others. The online rumors would later claim that the shooting was done by youngsters from the so-called Motown part of Chicago, a neighborhood that's for the longest time been associated with the Black P. Stones. One of these youngsters, called Breeze, would later seemingly brag about the shooting on Twitter, but meanwhile, another one would end up losing his life less than 24 hours later. The following day after the fatal party, at around 2:03 p.m., 18-year-old Delvon Weston, known in the streets as
I always loved my hair until menopause. The grays came fast and they wouldn't quit.
70% of women experience faster
Lil Del from the Folly Boys set, which is one of the many sets based in Motown, was sitting in a parked car on the 8800 block of South Marshfield Avenue in the Auburn Gresham neighborhood when a dark-colored SUV would pull up next to him and someone would open fire, hitting Del several times in the chest. And while he was reportedly able to drive himself to the Christ Medical Center, he would ultimately be pronounced dead at 2:22 p.m. Only a few minutes after Del was pronounced dead at the hospital, 051 Melly would hop on Twitter, simply tweeting, "I'm at Army alone," followed by "right back," as if he was celebrating a successful get back. This was followed by a tweet saying "finna go change my clothes" that he would post together with a video showing himself sitting in a car while talking to a person who would show a gun to the camera before seemingly saying how they had got someone or something.
No, you a little yeah. No, you invite him. Oh yeah, we got them. Now what talking about? When? Man, damn.
When you gotta get you a girlfriend, you gotta be faithful, bro.
I got a girlfriend.
You gotta get like me. You gotta get like me. You got a
girlfriend named Amber. Come out of that, though, G. What's wrong?
The person who Melly was talking with was a little-known face in the drill scene at the time, but he would later become known in connection to Lil Durk's murder-for-hire allegations, as this person would turn out to be none other than Stephon Mack, who would also be eventually killed in 2022, allegedly as a retaliation for the murder of Lil Durk's brother D-Thang. But later on, Melly's other friends would also often make posts on social media implying that Del's murder was connected to the death of Bankroll Q, and that Melly had in fact had something to do with it. But besides tweets, the murder of Del, like so many of Melly's other alleged bodies, is only based on online rumors and theories. However, in 2017, Melly would allegedly commit a murder that would almost get him caught. On the 13th of June, at approximately 10:30 p.m., residents on the 5000 block of Drexel Boulevard would report gunshots, and in the building's gangway, 22-year-old Dandre Smith was found lying dead, his body riddled with bullets. The investigators would eventually learn that Dandre, known in the streets as Lord Dre, was a friend of 051 Melly, and on the day of his death, he had been asked by Melly to participate in the robbery of a drug dealer. However, this robbery plan was allegedly just a ruse to get Dre to meet Melly, who he might have known deep down was out to get him, as Dre would allegedly text his brother to let him know that he was with Melly in case something happened to him. Melly and a woman named Tiara would then allegedly drive Dre to the building on Drexel Boulevard before Melly would shoot him in the gangway. But why would Melly kill somebody who had supposedly been his friend? Perhaps they'd had a falling out recently, or perhaps for a much darker reason. Because if the investigators are to be believed, the reason had a much more sinister explanation, as Melly had allegedly learned that there was a $12,000 bounty that had been placed on Dre's head, which was money that Melly needed to bond out his brother Wu, who had been arrested 2 days earlier on weapons charges. In fact, Melly and his brother Wu would even allegedly have poorly disguised coded conversations about the murder plot on recorded phone calls while Wu was still in jail, while a witness would tell the investigators that Melly had tried to claim to her that it was THF-46 who were trying to kill him and Dre, and that both Melly and Dre had money on their heads, and that it was only a matter of time before one of them would kill the other to claim the bounty. However, at the time, the police simply didn't have enough evidence to hold Melly on these charges, and while they didn't know it at the time, before they could ever capture him for good, it would already be too late, both for Melly and his next victims. At the end of 2017, Melly's good friend Mubu Crump would be released from federal prison after he'd been locked up for about 2 years, and he would get back onto the streets and online and do what he does best: troll, even dropping a song dissing Durk and his crew titled OTFK, where he would diss numerous gangs and sets like THF-46 and Lamron, as well as dead people like Newski and Chino. Crump would keep disrespecting his ops, perhaps thinking they had all gone Hollywood together with Lil Durk, but unfortunately for Crump, there were plenty of his enemies still left who were willing to show him that he wasn't the only tough guy in the city, and that even having a top shooter like Melly around couldn't save him. In the early morning hours of May 25th, 2018, Crump and Melly were attending a party on the 6800 block of South Morgan Street, only a few blocks away from Lil Durk's Lamron set's hood. While Crump, whose real name is Ronald Crump, was standing outside the party with another man, a car would drive by and someone inside would open fire, striking both. Crump would pass away from his injuries, but the other man would end up surviving after a surgery. Now, there's been many rumors about that second victim, with many claiming that this person had in fact been Melly himself and that he had actually been the main target. But while Melly seemingly was in the party, he would deny having been the second victim while on an Instagram live with Durk's good friend and OTF affiliate Bezu from THF-46.
If I was there, it wouldn't go on. If I was there, it wouldn't go on. You could say one person, and I wasn't there. I was in a bus.
Lying, bro. You know I know you lying.
What situation? You say one person I was
no, bro, we getting recorded, bro. You know that. I'm not gonna say no name. You know what's going on.
I just told you I was that one person. And what was I doing when it was going on? I was fucking running to gunfire?
Yeah.
I ain't no stupid.
Super safe, bro.
You heard me saying to you, I'm real smart. You even told me I'm not no idiot.
The police report on the shooting would also note how the second victim had no gang affiliations or previous arrests, and the victim's age would also be reported as 28, while Melly was only 26 at the time. But whether Melly himself had been shot or not, he was looking to avenge.
Are you dealing with the after effects of medical malpractice? You trusted your doctor, you followed their advice, and now you're dealing with consequences that could have been prevented. Maybe they missed something obvious on your test results. Maybe they failed to treat your stroke.
His good friend's death. And while nobody would be arrested for the murder, if dissing was anything to go by, Melly would certainly have no problem deciphering who had been behind the hit, as people connected to Lil Durk's OTF crew were quick to start rejoicing over Crump's death, with everybody from Lil Durk to Bezu and even King Von, who had only recently returned home after beating his own murder charges, would participate in the dissing. Bezu would seemingly even later imply that the police had come looking for him after Crump's murder.
Hey look, the Crump woofing at me on the internet. Somebody smoking, they come get me. You finna do the same.
However, one of the main suspects that the online sleuths have attached to Crump's murder is actually Lil Durk's childhood friend, Lil Steve, from his own Lamron set, who actually many consider may have been the actual Triggerman. Durk's fans have even considered these lyrics from his popular No Auto Durk song from September 2018 to be an admission that Steve was actually behind Crump's murder, with Durk rapping that the ops can't have a party on their block if Steve is out there. But before Melly would get his revenge on Durk, he would allegedly finish another job that he had started a long time ago. On the 19th of August, only a few months after Crump's murder, 19-year-old Tyrone Marshall was hanging out with a friend on the 4000 block of the South Calumet Avenue in the Bronzeville neighborhood. Tyrone, known in the streets as TY, was also known as an aspiring rapper, but Melly would have a more personal connection with him, as TY had been a friend of Lil Del, whom Melly had allegedly killed as revenge for the murder of his friend Bankroll Q. Moreover, TY had allegedly been present during Bankroll's murder. At around 3:27 p.m, while TY was leaning on a car and talking to his friend, another car would pull up, and someone from the inside would fire shots, hitting TY in the head, and he would later be pronounced dead at the hospital. Interestingly, this time, a witness would actually recognize Melly as the shooter, but once again, the police would be too slow to act, and before they were able to gather enough evidence to catch Melly, it would already be too late. Even with the most conservative estimates, Melly had now gotten away with several murders, but he wasn't done with his revenge campaign before he would get back for the murder of Crump, and only about 2 months after TY's murder, he would get his opportunity. On the 8th of October, Lil Durk's big brother and manager D-Thang was out in their hometown with some childhood friends, including Durk's cousin Baby D, real name Darnell Banks. In the early morning hours, they were driving in the Pullman neighborhood on the far south side. They would reportedly be at a parking lot of the McDonald's when somebody would open fire at them, even hitting one of the windows of the restaurant. They would pull off with their car, but would eventually come to a stop on the 11200 block of South Cottage Grove Avenue, where police would find 3 of the men suffering from serious gunshot wounds. D-Thang was one of the people shot, but he would end up surviving, but unfortunately Baby D wouldn't be as lucky. He was rushed to the University of Chicago Medical Center, where he would tragically pass away hours later. Baby D's murder would be yet another unsolved murder, but online theories have connected Melly to the incident based on 2 main pieces of circumstantial evidence. First, a photo would circulate online of one of Baby D's cousins wearing a Long Live Baby D shirt with an F Melly print boldly placed on the front, together with a picture of Melly. This showing that people close to Baby D indeed certainly seemed to consider Melly to be responsible. Moreover, after Melly was killed, D-Thang would reportedly share an Instagram story that seemed to celebrate Melly's death, while implying that anyone who had ever done anything to him had died. He would also tweet after Melly's death how any op who had ever shot at him wasn't here anymore to tell the story. Baby D is often considered to have been Melly's final victim, and unfortunately for Melly, before his life would come to an end, he would have to experience yet another major loss on his side of the war. On the 3rd of January 2019, Melly's good friend Mota, real name Wilbert Morris, was driving with a friend called Side, real name Marcus Clark, on the 5000 block of South Indiana Avenue in the Bronzeville neighborhood, when someone would open fire at them shortly before 1 p.m, hitting one of them in the chest while the other one in the face, killing both at the scene. Mota and Side were from Jaro City, a set who were at the time very close with 051 Melly's 051 Young Money set, the two even sometimes going by the connected name YM Jaro. And personally, Mota was one of Melly's closest friends, his death clearly being one of the toughest losses that Melly had faced in the streets, with Melly swearing that one day he would make those people responsible cry like he had. And once again, if dissing was anything to go by, the usual suspects close to Lil Durk's OTF would begin taking shots at Mota and Side. This time, OTF's younger generation would take the charge, like the rapper Moowop, who would preview a song on his Instagram where he would diss FBG Duck, whose murder he would eventually be convicted of being part of, as well as dissing both Mota and Side with a slick double entendre.
Could we use your house to trial our 24-hour bathroom upgrade system? We're looking for homeowners within Val.
No doubt, given enough time, Melly would have claimed yet another victim to avenge the murder of Mota, but given the amount of havoc and destruction that he had caused, even Melly himself likely knew that his days were numbered. Or perhaps he didn't, because during his Instagram live with Bezu, Melly would proudly claim that he was never going to move out of Chicago, and that he was going to live until he was 100, with even Bezu giving him credit for knowing how to move in his hometown.
I'm gonna move to Mexico, man. Start a new life, bro. I'm scared.
Oh, no, I ain't never moving out of Chicago.
Oh, yeah.
I love it here.
Make it here.
You said make it here.
Sure.
I'm gonna make it. I'm gonna make it to 100 years.
Sure.
I'm gonna be one of the last ones standing.
Yeah, you know how to move. Duck that taco.
No, I ain't ducking my taco. Just say you said it right the first time. I know how to move. I ain't ducking my taco.
You know how to move. I'm gonna give that to you.
Perhaps Melly could have ducked his main enemies like the OTF until he was an old man, but the problem was that Melly had made so many enemies that even he probably couldn't keep count of them all. And so, on his last day, Melly would be right where he was comfortable at, attending a party in the hood of Jaro City, only a few blocks away from his main enemies like 600 and O Block. As mentioned, Melly was close with Jaro City, but unfortunately, he had also made some enemies amongst the set, because according to later police reports, a witness would reveal that Melly had shot up the house of a Jaro City member called Lil Daryl, real name Daryl Rhyme, which was possibly a retaliation for the fact that Daryl might have been telling on Melly in the murder investigation of Lord Dre. These events would lead to a fateful moment in the party, where Melly would allegedly run into one of Daryl's friends, called 007 Nate, just as one of the partygoers was filming a video, capturing the chilling last moments of Melly's life on camera.
Man, I just killed y'all.
The police would later check the security cameras of the building, seeing that 007 Nate, real name Nathaniel Hicks, had arrived at the party around 12:30 AM, and at one point he had even posed at one of the security cameras with his gun, before then allegedly shooting Melly at around 2:45 AM and then running out of the building. Nate would then be identified as the shooter by multiple witnesses, and he was eventually even caught a few days later with the murder weapon still on him. But despite all of this evidence, the state attorney's office would ultimately refuse to prosecute Nate due to the witnesses' refusal to cooperate. In the end, just Just like Melly had seemingly escaped justice so many times due to the no snitching code that rules the streets, ultimately, this code would also make sure that Melly's family wouldn't be receiving any closure after his death. And no doubt, considering how much the Chicago police knew that Melly was terrorizing the streets and taking people out, perhaps there was some sick satisfaction for the cops in just not making an effort to get justice for one of the city's most demonic killers. Ultimately, 051 Melly left one of the most shocking legacies in the streets of Chicago, a certified gang assassin bordering on serial killer with at least 8 rumored murders attributed to him online, and perhaps even more that the internet doesn't even know about. Melly didn't rap a single lyric, but he became famous off the back of his reputation that echoed through the lyrics of more focused and famous Chicago drillers who survived and made music. His dark legacy lives through these songs, the IG posts, Reddit posts and comments, and YouTube documentaries, painting him as the so-called grave digger of Chirac. But at the end of the day, Melly's story is truly one of a tragic waste of life. What did he really achieve? There's nothing cool or fun about terrorizing your community and taking the lives of promising young people who could have all been doing something better with their time. Melly was clearly terrorizing Lil Durk and the OTF and the THF crews, and while it was other people who ultimately had the last laugh, there's no winners here. There's nothing cool about being the biggest demon or the biggest killer from your neighborhood. And despite his fearsome reputation as an untouchable killer who everyone was scared of and supposedly knew how to move, Melly winded up getting touched too, getting caught lacking and losing his life in an incredibly unremarkable way that was far from heroic. So, if there's a lesson from this story, it's that there really are no winners in the streets, no trophies for being the top killer, just a shortcut to an early grave and a very big list of sins to answer for when you do reach whatever comes after life. So I hope you learned something from this story and can go and do something positive today. Thanks for watching. Peace out.